Well, joining me now is the Atlantic Council Global Affairs analyst, Bociurkiw, joining us from Odesa. He is the former spokesman for the OSCE, the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe. It is very good to have you with us. What did you make of the visit, not just the symbolism, but the pledge that was made of that $1.85 billion of further military aid?
Yeah, definitely a historic visit. Zelensky performed as he always does. In fact, I think he wowed everyone, including the Republicans, where we see a bit of a decline there in support for aid to Ukraine. But, you know, here in Odesa, which, by the way, is under an air raid siren alert as we speak, there's a lot of concern that the Ukrainian government just isn't getting the quantity of weaponry that it requires. The kind of new Russian strategy over the past few weeks has been to bombard Ukraine with waves and waves of missiles, but also those Iranian-built drones. And now we're hearing from contacts on the front lines, they're sending waves of soldiers, recruits, convicts, whatever you want to call them. So there's a need for not only higher quantity, better quality of weaponry, but also much, much more quantity as well.
In which case, that brings me on to the question about the Patriot missiles. What difference, if any, do you think those will make?
Well, you know, everything I've looked at over the past 24 hours or so indicates that while it's a welcome kind of escalation, if you will, in U.S. contributions to Ukraine, it will only protect a certain amount of sky. We're talking about one battery. Even before the Patriot missile system arrives, I mean, the Ukrainians have been shooting down about 80% of incoming missiles. So what this means is the Ukrainians are going to have to deploy that Patriot battery missile very, very strategically, probably to high-value assets in and around Kyiv. But there's a lot more that needs to be done to protect Ukraine's skies fully. Because, I mean, every night now in Odesa, it's almost pitch black and lack of electricity, and it doesn't seem like that will come back anytime soon.
And given the restated support by America for Ukraine, how much do you think that will lead President Putin to put further pressure on Belarus to support militarily Russia's side of things?
Yeah, well, of course, the timing of the Zelensky visit was interesting because it came on the heels of President Putin's visit to Belarus. I think that the Ukrainians feel again that while the American support is welcome, it will make a difference, at least in the short term, that the Americans also need to work on Western capitals in Europe where support is quite weak. For example, the Ukrainians can't get the most modern tanks from places like Germany because there's opposition. We had a press conference here yesterday with the French delegation. They couldn't explain why their support to Ukraine was abysmally low, less than half of what Canada gives in terms of percentage of GDP, and they're on closer to the front line here. So I think that's part of the Biden strategy. Reading between the lines is that we're also going to put more pressure on Europe to deliver more humanitarian aid and more military aid to Ukraine.
OK, Bociurkiw from the Atlantic Council, thank you very much for speaking to us here on Impact.
My pleasure.